Mary Tyler Moore started out her life as an aspiring dancer. And when the Dick Van Dyke Show was looking for someone to play the part of Laura Petrie, they were coming up empty until Mary's agent suggested she go over for an interview. When Carl Reiner looked out into the waiting room and saw Mary sitting there with the poise and elegance of a dancer, he knew immediately he had found his Laura. I was always intrigued with the Dick Van Dyke Show growing up because the character of Laura Petrie sometimes would just burst into dance. It seemed like at inappropriate times and not in keeping with the plot or her character. I was always kind of perplexed and amused by that. But looking back, I can see it's the difference between uh, being handed a script and playing a role. Sometimes we need to set the script aside to fulfill our role and just be who we are. Welcome to Illinois Bridging Awareness. I'm Stanley Smith at Illinois Bridging Awareness. I think we stopped. We've gotten out of the business of trying to figure everything out, and I think in many ways we're just focusing on just being. This week we talked about the theme of the glass being half full or half empty, and the idea of silence and the idea of silence being a noun or a verb. It's something we pursue. Jim Downs offered the idea of seeking out and being aware of a spiritual silence. And Annie Gramone talked about making this a practice of silencing ourselves and being present. So it was an interesting conversation. I think what I was looking for was the idea that silence is something that just happens, or we can encounter it sometimes when we least expect it. But it was a very good conversation. I think we're going to continue the conversation. And where we were going with it was the idea of who we are, finding ourselves in the emptiness and the silence. I shared on the call that some of our participants have had the experience of losing many friends over the last few years, but remarkably, new friends have come. The emptiness has been filled with new people, new relationships, and I think sometimes hard to see the emptiness for the fullness, but sometimes we need the emptiness, we need the silence, we need this space for something new to happen, and sometimes it's not always of our own fruition. In the conversation of silence being a verb or an active force or a noun, I was tempted to bring up the topic of commission and omission, and I'm not sure if that's an apt comparison, but the idea of some things we do need to be active in and take action and uh, be an active force for change, but other cases we need to just um, practice omission, the things we don't do, the empty part. Not everything needs to be filled up. Not every concern or issue or problem needs an answer or a solution. Sometimes it just needs to be there. I think that's probably uncomfortable for a lot of people, but I think that's where we're coming around to here in Illinois Bridging Awareness. The idea that we don't need to figure it all out. Not everything needs an answer. We don't need to view the emptiness or the silence as a problem. We also don't need to view the silence as complete silence. There can be interruptions and noises amongst the silence, but we can still discern the silent message. I was intrigued on the call when the topic of who we are and finding out who we are came up, and Roxanne Burrs shared that she was trying to be the woman that she needs to be, the everything that she needs to be as a woman. And for me on the call, that was a moment of silence because I heard what she was saying, and it kind of lived there in a space amongst all the other conversation for me. I know in my life, humor is important, and I shared that you know I like to think that God is mildly amused with me, but looking back in my life, I can see that humor and being flippant about things is probably not always appropriate. Like Mary Tyler Moore bursting into dance, it probably has not always been warranted. And I need to own that. And I recognize that looking back, even 20 years ago, I think myself and all of us can see, oh, that probably wasn't a good fit. It wasn't a good melding of our script and our role. But this is part of the awareness, is figuring out and being open to the role coming to us from the distance. My church friend a couple weeks ago shared with me the idea that God wants us to believe in the God that He wants us to believe in, and I'm still working on trying to understand that. But during the call, it occurred to me that that also, we sometimes make a mistake that we want God to love the person that we think we should be for Him to love, and that's probably not accurate. God is coming to us, and He wants to love us for exactly who we are. Years ago in men's Bible study class, when it was led by clergy, it was pretty rigid and pretty narrow, and the clergy was always looking for the right or wrong answer, and it was very seldom that we had the right answer. They were always offering these arcane translations and correct versions of the Bible, which were supposed to explain to us, the true meaning of the gospel. But one time we were studying the passage of Isaiah, the famous one about the voice in the wilderness, and the rough places plain and the high places low, and the part about how God is building a highway through the desert. The minister in charge of the class asked us, why does God need to build a highway? And I said, oh, well, God is building a highway because He needs a highway to get to us, because we're so far away from God. He looked at me and said, right, that's the right answer. And I guess that was another moment of silence for me, because I was like, wow, this is the first time I ever got anything right in men's Bible study class. Wherever we are on this journey together here in LMI Bridging Awareness, I think our conversation is moving along. It's just moving along swimmingly. Next week, I believe we're going to be talking about, who are we? Who the heck are we? Do any of us really know, the difference between our script and our role? In the building I work in downtown, we have elevator operators, and we have a new operator who is a young gentleman from Nigeria. Next week, he's been reminding me that we have the thanks day is coming up, the thank you day. And I've never bothered to correct him, because I'm so struck by that, the thank you day. And because I try to avoid anything that's smarmy or Hallmark card like, I'm going to offer that as a special greeting and blessing, and wish for everyone that they have a very happy thank you day. I think we have many things we can say thank you for, and not the least of which are these friendships we've developed here at LMI Bridging Awareness. We have small pockets of people all over the state who are still gathering and meeting and holding fellowship. If you'd like to explore having a group in your area, let me know. I think we have the bandwidth to connect the dots and find people in your area. But whatever you're doing to find fellowship and communion with people during this holiday season and during this tumultuous time, I commend you and encourage you to continue to follow the script you need to, but set the script aside whenever it's necessary to fulfill your role. If you would like to join us at LMI Bridging Awareness, I will include my email in the description of this video. I'll be happy to send you an invitation, and I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.